So, hey, what's up, and welcome to this series that we're doing, with the great fellows from MIT. And in this episode, it's going to be a very short one. Exact welcome, Dina. So, Dina, just introduce yourself. Tell us what you do.
So my name is Dina, Sherif, and I'm the Executive Director of the Legatum Center for Development and Entrepreneurship at MIT. I'm also a Senior Lecturer at the Sloan School of Management, where the center is based. Used to be an entrepreneur, also investor, done a lot of work in public policy.
Yep.
And thank you for having me.
All right, thank you, Dina. And I think you work very closely with the African entrepreneurs. I mean, why African entrepreneurs? Why are they so important part of your ecosystem at
Well,
MIT?
I'm African. And
Yes.
I feel a moral obligation
to-
to also serve where I come from.
Mhm.
I'm Egyptian. I also think that in many ways, Africa is the future.
Yeah.
So we have the youngest population in the world, the smallest percentage of people over 65 in the world.
Mhm.
That means that over the next 2 decades,
Yeah.
the largest consumer base will be here on this continent.
Mhm, mhm.
So in terms of demographics, in terms of GDP growth
Yeah.
rates,
Mhm.
Africa really is in many ways the future. And if we don't work on it now, we'll find ourselves very much behind the curve
Mhm.
a decade from now. So part of it is because we need to create jobs. Part of it is we focus on innovation-driven entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Mhm.
And the Foundry Fellowship, some of whom you've met, the Foundry Fellows,
Mhm.
they're not, they're not startups. They're very mature,
Yeah.
advanced entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
and they have to play a role in building their ecosystems.
Mhm.
And part of the fellowship is to instill that responsibility that they have a role to play
Mhm.
in ensuring that the ecosystems that they are in thrive and continue to support the next generation of entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
but to also be the voice of how technology can be integrated well in creating prosperity on this continent. Because if we don't transition to the knowledge economy, we have no chance of being globally
Yeah.
competitive.
Mhm.
And we are already not globally competitive.
Mhm.
So in the face of the fact that we lag behind in terms of industrial capacity
Mhm.
and many other things, technology can really help us speed up the process of achieving prosperity, but also being able to export innovation as opposed to being passive consumers
Yeah.
of technology and innovation coming from the West is extremely important
Mhm.
to our own ability to achieve economic sovereignty.
All right. And of course, based on your experience, in the market, how would you describe the innovation space in Africa? I know you work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and of course, as you say, some of them are really mature because we spoke to a lot of them, and some have been in operation for like even 15 years. I mean, that's a mature business. How would you describe the space in general?
I think that there are a number of cities that have rapidly evolving innovation spaces.
Yeah. Mhm.
Cairo, Lagos, Nairobi, Johannesburg. We're now starting to see a lot of movement from Senegal, from Uganda,
Yeah.
from Ghana. So I think there's been a lot of talk about, the tech boom in Africa.
Yeah.
But the reality is, the pipeline needs to increase exponentially if it's going to serve our needs. And that means that we also need to see allocation of capital come here. And that requires that government also play a role in ensuring that we have enabling environments that welcomes capital, that we remove corruption from our systems so that investors come and they feel comfortable. But also, it's also critical for our own entrepreneurs to scale their companies across the continent. And we are not a homogeneous continent. We're very different. And I think the Foundry Fellowship is a gateway for entrepreneurs, helping other entrepreneurs scale to their countries and navigate the systems and regulations that exist there. We are not the same, we're all different. Right?
Yeah.
But I do think African governments need to work together more closely to make it easier for African entrepreneurs to scale in the continent, to cut out red tape, to cut out the corruption, make it easy to access our markets.
All right. But actually, like the work, the fellowship, the Foundry Fellowship actually doing with these entrepreneurs. And as you said about scaling, I think one of the biggest challenges we've seen that is really stopping them from scaling the regulations, because we have different countries having different regulations. For example, we see Kenya have their own, Nigeria have their own, and that's limiting, them to scale, right? What's your thought about that?
I don't think the regulations are what is preventing. I think it's mindset.
Mindset, okay.
We need to start seeing other African countries as a place that we want to go to. Africans don't travel in Africa. They think travel, oh, I need to leave Africa, right? We need to be thinking about how we go to each other's countries and become familiar with each other's countries. So I think it's not about, America has very different regulations, but yet we go and we navigate that. Why wouldn't I try to go and navigate the regulations of Nigeria if I'm Egyptian? It's the same concept. And Nigeria is a massive market. It's like over 200 million people. So
it's a huge population,
So I think it's a mindset issue of, we don't think that scaling to each other's countries is good enough. And that's a part of decolonizing our minds, right?
Yeah.
We have been told that we are not good enough. We have been told that, going from Egypt to Nigeria or Nigeria to Kenya is not what makes you successful.
And we believed it.
And we believe the narrative, right? That we are less than, or that our countries aren't good enough. That is a mindset issue, and it's also us buying into stereotypes created about us by other people.
What more should we expect to see from the program just moving forward?
Oh, as the fellowship continues to grow, I promise you're going to be seeing a lot of things coming out of this community of fellows. You're going to see them coming up with their own collective programs to do together. We've already seen a lot. We've seen some of our fellows co-invest together. We've seen some of our fellows help each other scale to each other's countries. We've seen a lot of these fellows mentor entrepreneurs who are much younger and help them stay successful. So we're already starting to see the impact, but as the community grows, I suspect they're going to become a community of influence where they will start influencing policy and decision making, and they will start playing a much bigger role in shaping how our innovation ecosystems evolve.
Oh, interesting. And maybe just, Dina, you've been in Nairobi for 6 days now, and this is the second time you're coming. This time around, what are your key takeaways? I know you've visited so many places. You've gone to CASA, you've met government officials, you've met a lot of other businesses. What would you say are some of your key takeaways you've seen from this second trip in Nairobi?
First of all, I love Kenyans. They're very warm.
We are that nice.
Very welcoming. There is an interesting ecosystem here that continues to be fragmented. And I think the future success of Nairobi's tech and innovation space is going to depend on the ability of the ecosystem to start integrating, and for the different stakeholders, universities, risk capital players, the government, entrepreneurs, big corporates to start having better conversations and to start really collaborating more with a common purpose of where they want this ecosystem to go and what they want it to stand for. What is the unique comparative advantage that Nairobi wants to have as an innovation ecosystem.
All right. Thank you so much, Dina. Any closing remarks?
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for just listening in and watching this, last episode of this podcast series. We've been doing with a lot of amazing fellows and, of course, from the fellowship program. And, of course, we're looking forward to actually just discussing more and just studying and following up on the product they're building in the different markets. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.